Liga MX is the class of CONCACAF. They are, without a doubt, the best league in the region. And I hate saying that. I hate admitting that Liga MX is better than MLS. But how can I argue that? I mean, Mexican teams have dominated the CONCACAF Champions League. The only times an MLS team has won was 1998 with DC United and 2000 with the LA Galaxy. But that's back when it was the CONCACAF Champions Cup. Since it was rebranded to the CONCACAF Champions League in the 2008-2009 season, Liga MX has won every single year. There are some years where the 4 Liga MX sides are the last 4 teams in the tournament. Total domination. But MLS teams have gotten close to winning it. Like, really, really close. Real Salt Lake in 2010-2011 was the first time it looked like an MLS team was finally going to pull it off. But their road to CCL was kind of weird. You see, the playoff format in MLS back then was a little broken. The top 2 teams from each conference advanced, and then the next 4 teams based on record, regardless of conference, advanced. But there were still conference championship games. So in 2009, there were only 3 Eastern Conference teams that made the playoffs. So the last team to get in, which was, again, RSL, got moved over to the Eastern Conference. Honestly, it makes no sense. I don't know why MLS did this for a couple years, but that's what they did. They took down the Supporters Shield champion Columbus Crew in the conference semis, and then eliminated the Chicago Fire in the conference finals in a PK shootout, and then took down the mighty LA Galaxy in the final, also in a PK shootout. Because they won the Cup, that assured them a spot in the group stage. Now, even though they were the Cup champions, I think because it was kind of a fairy tale run, a lot of people discounted RSL for the tournament. Not gonna lie, I definitely did. People viewed the Galaxy as still the best chance for an MLS team to win the Champions League. But then, they completely blew it. They laid an egg in the preliminary knockout round, losing to the Puerto Rico Islanders 5-3 on aggregate. If that's not bad enough, they lost 4-1 at home. God, Galaxy, what happened? It's not just that an MLS team lost to a USL team. It's that it was the Galaxy. Like, this should have been a slam dunk. I mean, this might still be the biggest disappointment by an MLS team in CCL. The Seattle Sounders, who qualified for the Champions League through the US Open Cup, were a lot of people's next biggest favorites for MLS to make a run. Simply put, they were Atlanta United before Atlanta United existed. They had the crowds, they had the coach, they played this exciting brand of soccer, and people viewed them as the future of US soccer at the beginning of the decade. And then they went 1-5 in the group stages. Yeah, looking back, MLS struggled in the early days of CCL, and 2010 was not an exception. But at least RSL and Columbus Crew decided to show up to the party. An extra time PK for Salt Lake gave them a 2-1 victory in their first match over Oribe Unido of Panama. Their next match was going to be their most difficult of the group stages. They traveled to Mexico to play CCL favorites Cruz Azul. A crazy match during a monsoon that saw both teams score in extra time. RSL eventually fell 5-4. Now, even though RSL did lose this match, I think it gave them confidence because they knew they could hang with the big boys in Mexico. In fact, they wouldn't lose another group stage match and even knocked off Cruz Azul in the return leg 3-1 to win the group. That was kind of a big deal because it was the first time an MLS team had won the group in CONCACAF Champions League. It was progress against the rest of CONCACAF. Now, I wasn't sure if RSL or the Crew had a real chance of winning until I saw the draw. My goodness, how did this happen? I mean, you want to talk about the best possible scenario. All 4 Liga MX sides get paired on one side of the bracket, meaning you were only going to have to play them if you made the final. I mean, seriously, you can't ask for a better draw than that. RSL, Columbus Crew. Yeah, the only bummer about this draw was that both MLS sides faced off in the quarterfinals. I remember watching this first leg on a laggy stream on the CONCACAF website, and it was honestly the worst professional game I've ever watched. And I say that still to this day. It was snowy, it was freezing cold in Columbus that day, and there were like 5,000 fans in attendance. There were 3 red cards, and the man of the match was Columbus goalkeeper Ray Burse, who, get this, made 0 saves. Yeah, RSL didn't have a single shot on goal. Columbus, I don't even want to say they had half chances. They had like quarter chances. First game of the year, terrible conditions, not a great watch. But this is part of the reason why MLS sides struggle so much in the CCL knockout rounds, because, well, they're rusty. Other teams are in midseason form, while these guys are almost still in preseason form. I don't think you can use that as an excuse for when MLS teams do lose to teams that they probably shouldn't lose to, but I think you can at least still bring it up. The second leg was thankfully much more entertaining. I mean, for one, both teams actually looked like they wanted to be there. Alvaro Saborio opened up the scoring in the 23rd minute, and then Javier Morales doubled the lead in the 36th to give RSL a 2-0 lead into halftime. Columbus, now having to play with a little bit of desperation, would get one back just 4 minutes into the second half. But Morales and Andy Williams would put the nail in the coffin later in the second half to give RSL the 4-1 aggregate victory. They became the first MLS team to advance to the semis since 2008, when both DC United and Houston Dynamo made it. But again, that's back when it was the CONCACAF Champions Cup. This was technically the first time an MLS side made the semifinal in the current Champions League model. RSL Saprissa. Okay, Liga MX, they're top dog in CONCACAF. No one can dispute that. And I think today, it's pretty safe to say that MLS is second best. But back then, it wasn't that clear cut. Remember 2008 when I said that DC United and the Houston Dynamo made the semifinals? Well, Houston lost to Saprissa 3-0 on goal aggregate. In fact, in the last 5 years of CONCACAF competition, starting in 2011, MLS was only 2-5-3 versus teams from Costa Rica. Now, even today, MLS does struggle against teams from Costa Rica. It's not 2-5-3 level, but it's still not great. On top of that, you had probably the most intriguing storyline, which was Alvaro Saborio. Saborio was a monster in Champions League, already 7 goals in 8 games. But Sabo started his career with Saprissa, and he was kind of a club legend. 95 goals, the second most in team history, and he also won a CONCACAF Champions Cup in 2005. RSL had the first leg at home, and guess who scored? Seriously, this could be in a movie script. I mean, how does this happen? 9 minutes in, and Alvaro Saborio burns his old team, and Salt Lake already had the advantage. Fabian Espindola doubled the lead in the 57th minute, and Salt Lake was heading to Costa Rica with a crucial 2-0 lead. But the job was far from done. Estadio Ricardo Saprissa Aima, aka the Monsters Cave, one of the most difficult places to play in the entire CONCACAF region. The supporters as passionate as anywhere in the world. After weathering the storm of the first half, Saprissa broke through just a minute into the second half with a rip by Luis Cordero. RSL now battling both the team and the Saprissa supporters on their back. And then, Jamison Alave. This is why I love this run by Real Salt Lake, because they had so many different guys step up and play the hero. Alave is a guy that just doesn't score a lot of goals. I mean, he only had 21 in his entire career, which spanned over 360 games. But he picked a good time to score one. Saprissa would score a late PK, but too little too late. Real Salt Lake was on to the final. RSL Monterrey. History was not on Salt Lake's side, and up to this point, no MLS team had ever won in Mexico in CONCACAF competition. 21-3. Yeah, not so great. Thank God it's not like that anymore. Unlike the semis, the first game was on the road for RSL. But I think playing in Saprissa actually helped out because the crazy atmosphere, they've already experienced it. The mission for the first leg was just survive. Give yourself an opportunity to win it at home in the next leg. Not a good start. 17th minute, Aldo de Negris goal for Monterrey. On the plus side, he lifted up his shirt in celebration and got a yellow card. Now, it doesn't matter that I personally hate that rule. It's still the rule. And because of yellow card accumulation, he was now going to be suspended for the second leg. Yeah, missing the last game of the tournament because of goal celebration. Come on, man. You gotta be smarter than that. 35th minute, Nat Borchers responds. But a handball by Alave would give Monterrey a PK in the 63rd minute, in which Humberto Suazo would convert. Tempers would flare late in the match when Saborio collided with the Monterrey keeper. Yeah, pretty sure you're not allowed to do that. But also pretty sure you're not allowed to put your hands on someone's neck. Dying moments in the match, 89th minute, and Javi Morales finds net. Leg 1 in the books, 2-2. Not only did RSL survive, but they put themselves in the driver's seat. Getting a draw with 2 away goals meant a win or a 0-0 or 1-1 draw would make them champions. And Real Salt Lake, they had something going for them. Rio Tinto Stadium. RSL had gone all of 2010 without losing a single game at home. A 37-game home undefeated streak across all competitions. This was a fortress. Leg 2. Both teams getting opportunities early on. Still to this day, I have no idea how Espíndola missed this chance. RSL could have used that one. Humberto Suazo scoring at the end of the first half meant RSL needed to score in the second. All they needed was 1 goal. I think what's most frustrating was that Real Salt Lake pushed Monterrey to its limit. And for this night, it really did look like MLS was equal to Liga MX. But they weren't, because they still lost. And it doesn't matter how close it was. Every year, we hope that MLS will finally win the CCL. The next time we would see an MLS team make a run, it would be an even bigger underdog story.